You are halfway through a terrible movie, and you know it is terrible, but you stay. Not because you are enjoying it, because you already spent 2 hours watching it, and leaving now would mean those 2 hours meant nothing. You are in a relationship that has not made you happy in months, but you stay, because you have already invested 2 years, and walking away feels like losing everything you put in. You are in a job that drains you every single day, but you stay, because you have worked there for 5 years, and starting over now feels like admitting defeat. This is not weakness. This is not lack of intelligence. This is one of the most deeply wired cognitive traps the human brain falls into, and it has a name: the sunk cost fallacy. The sunk cost fallacy is a tendency to continue an investment of time, money, energy, or emotion into something not because of its future value, but because of what has already been spent. The logic feels airtight from the inside. I have already put so much into this. I cannot just walk away now. But here is what that logic is actually doing. It is allowing the past, which cannot be changed, to control the future, which absolutely can be. And it does this so quietly, so convincingly, that even the most intelligent and self-aware people fall for it every single day. Psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky, whose research on human decision-making earned Kahneman the Nobel Prize, identified a core principle that explains why sunk cost thinking is so persistent. They called it loss aversion. Their research found that the psychological pain of losing something is roughly twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining something of equal value. This means that walking away from something you have invested in does not just feel disappointing. It feels like a loss that is neurologically processed as significantly more painful than a loss actually warrants. Your brain is not lying to you. It is following a very old and deeply embedded program that was designed to prevent you from abandoning resources. The problem is that program was designed for a world where resources were scarce and irreplaceable. In most modern decisions, it leads you in exactly the wrong direction. The sunk cost fallacy appears in every area of human life with consistency that researchers find remarkable. It appears in relationships where people remain with partners they are deeply unhappy with because of the years already spent together. It appears in careers where people continue in professions that no longer fulfill them because of the education and experience already accumulated. It appears in financial decisions where people continue investing in failing ventures because of the money already committed. It even appears in the smallest daily choices, like finishing a meal you do not want because you paid for it, or sitting through the rest of a concert you are not enjoying, because the tickets were expensive. The common thread in all of these is the same. The past investment becomes the primary justification for the future action, even when that justification makes no rational sense. What makes the sunk cost fallacy particularly difficult to escape is that it often disguises itself as virtue. Staying feels like loyalty. Continuing feels like perseverance. Not quitting feels like strength. And in some contexts, those things are genuinely true. The difficulty is that the human brain finds it nearly impossible to distinguish between situations where continuing is genuinely the right decision and situations where continuing is simply the result of not being able to tolerate the feeling of wasted investment. Psychologist Schwartz, whose research on decision-making and regret has been widely studied, found that the most painful version of sunk cost thinking is not the money or time lost. It is the identity loss. The fear that walking away means the person who made that original investment was a fool. And most people would rather stay in something wrong than face the possibility that a past version of themselves made a mistake. The economic principle that underlies all of this is straightforward but powerful. Sunk costs are costs that have already been incurred and cannot be recovered. The rational decision, according to economists, is to make choices based entirely on future costs and future benefits, with zero weight given what has already been spent. The money is gone. The years are gone. The energy is gone. None of it comes back regardless of what you decide now. The only question that actually matters is whether continuing from this point forward serves you better than stopping. But the emotional reality of being human means that zero weight given a past investment is neurologically almost impossible to achieve without deliberate and sustained effort. Recovery from sunk cost thinking begins with single and difficult reorientation. It requires asking not how much have I already given, but what is continuing from here actually cost me going forward, and what does it return? It requires separating the story of the past from the decision about the future. It requires accepting that a decision that once made sense can stop making sense without that meaning the person who made it was wrong to make it at the time. And perhaps most importantly, it requires understanding that choosing to stop is not losing what you invested. Choosing to stop is protecting everything you have left. The 2 hours you spent on that movie are not coming back, whether you stay or leave. The 2 years in that relationship are not recoverable, whether you go or remain. But every minute from this moment forward belongs entirely to you. And that is the only investment that the decision in front of you can actually affect. If this made you think of something specific in your own life, leave a quiet comment below. Subscribe to InnerFeels for more videos that finally explain the psychology behind the decisions that keep us stuck long after we already knew the answer.